Nobody thinks about what makes a perfect single-parent car. The dealership certainly does not. It is one income, school runs, groceries, car seats, safety, and a car that starts every morning. Here are 12 cheap cars that actually get it right. And number 1 is the one I would trust first. Number 12, Honda HR-V, 2016 to 2018. Small crossovers usually get sold like lifestyle toys, but the Honda HR-V works because it makes boring parent jobs easier, cheaper, and calmer. That is the whole test for this list. Not what looks impressive in a photo, but what makes a rushed Tuesday morning less expensive, less frustrating, and more predictable for one parent. That is where used car value matters most, because the wrong cheap car can steal grocery money faster than any salesman on the lot ever admits. I have watched parents pull into tight school lots with one kid half asleep, one backpack open, and no extra adult to help. And that is where this little Honda starts making sense. It sits higher than a sedan, so loading a child seat does not feel like a back workout, but it is still small enough to slide into a crowded grocery space without stress. The rear magic seat setup is the trick most people miss, because it lets you stand taller items upright when the week turns into groceries, sports gear, and random school projects. That matters when you are doing everything alone, and you do not have time to fold seats for 10 minutes in the rain. Running cost is the real reason it belongs here. The 1.8-liter four-cylinder is not powerful, but it is simple, and it does not ask for premium fuel or big tires. For a single income, that means the gas bill, brake bill, and tire bill stay in a normal zone instead of eating into the emergency fund. It also means most independent shops can service it without acting as if the car came from outer space. The warning is the continuously variable transmission. We do not buy one that whines, shudders, slips, or feels sluggish from a stop because that is a costly gamble. I want service records, fresh fluid history if possible, a clean title, and proof that the recall work was handled. The current price is usually about $8,000 to $12,000 for clean, higher-mile examples, depending on trim and location. On inspection, test slow takeoff, light throttle, and highway merging. Then run the air conditioning hard, check the hatch seals, and look in the spare tire well for moisture. One more thing, check rear seat room with the actual child seat installed, because spec sheets do not show scraped knuckles, twisted buckles, or a crying kid in January. Choose this car when you have 1 or 2 kids, tight parking, and a long daily route where smaller size and lower costs matter more than looking flashy. Have you owned one of these for school duty? Tell us, because real owners usually catch what dealer sheets miss. And if easy parking is the win here, the next one wins by being shaped like a little moving box. If straight used car talk helps, subscribe. We are building a channel for buyers who need honest advice before the dealer gets their money. Number 11. Scion XB, 2013 to 2015. Boxy looks scare-style shoppers away, and that is why the Scion XB can be a quiet, useful budget friend for a parent who just needs life to work. I like cars like this because nobody is trying to impress anybody. You open the doors, the roof is tall, the seat is easy to reach, and a child seat does not turn into a wrestling match. A single parent does not need a sporty roofline that steals headroom. They need backpacks, groceries, folding chairs, lunch bags, school projects, and maybe a stroller to fit without playing cargo games after work. The square body is the whole secret because the space is easy to use. A sloped hatch may look modern, but it wastes the exact room families need. The 2.4-liter four-cylinder and conventional automatic are the simple draw here. No turbo heat, no fancy luxury suspension, no complicated all-wheel drive system, and no screen-heavy cabin that makes every little failure annoying. These later XB years are still worth shopping because they are newer and easier to inspect, but we do not pretend the oil issue has disappeared by calendar year. The 2.4 can still use oil on affected cars, so check the dipstick cold. Ask about the oil consumption bulletin or production change point, and walk from any seller who treats a tired motor like normal. Current market prices usually run from about $6,500 to $11,000, and nice ones often cost less than a same-year Toyota badge with similar miles. Insurance can stay friendlier because it is low value, low power, and not a hot theft target in most areas, but I would still quote it first. For safety, the big win is not muscle. It is visibility, upright seating, easy rear access, and a car that does not tempt risky driving. Inspect the oil level before the test drive. Look for water pump seepage. Listen for bumps in the front suspension, clunks, and check the rear cargo area for water leaks or rough family abuse. Also, test every window and lock because cheap electrical annoyances become aggravating when kids are waiting. The new price was around the high teens when fresh, so today you are buying old Toyota-era bones for a fraction of the original money. Choose this car when you need cargo room, easy doors, cheaper repairs, and you do not care if the neighbors understand it. That plain shape is not a weakness. It is why the cabin stays wider, brighter, and easier to clean after a messy week. But if gas money is what hurts every Friday, number 10 changes the math fast. Number 10, Ford C-Max Hybrid, 2015 to 2017. Fuel bills hit single parents harder because every gallon is money that cannot go toward shoes, groceries, rent, or the next surprise school expense. That is why the Ford C-Max Hybrid deserves a serious look, even though most buyers walk past it because it is not a Prius and not a crossover. In daily use, it sits a little taller than a normal hatchback, so getting in and out feels easier, and the rear hatch is useful for backpacks, grocery bags, and a folded stroller. The cabin feels airy, the seating position feels friendly, and the car does not punish you in tight parking like a larger SUV. For a parent doing long commute miles, the hybrid system is the whole point. Stop-and-go traffic is where it can save real money. And gentle driving also means the brake pads often last longer than they would in a regular gas car. The 2.0-liter hybrid setup with an electronic continuously variable transmission is smoother than many cheap compact automatics, and it avoids a normal starter and alternator. That lowers some wear points, but we still inspect it like adults. I do not want warning lights, strange transmission whine, a weak 12-volt battery, or a car that feels rough switching between electric and gas power. Also, I would choose the regular hybrid over the Energi plug-in for most families, because the plug-in battery steals cargo room, and single parents need space more than charging homework. Current prices usually sit around $7,000 to $11,500, with some higher mile cars below, that if the history is clean. Check the hybrid screen, listen on a quiet road, test the heat and air conditioning, and bring the stroller or bins you actually use. Look at tire wear too, because cheap tires can make a decent hybrid feel noisy and unstable. The new price was often in the mid-20s, so depreciation already did the painful work before you arrived. Choose this car when your weekly gas bill hurts more than your ego, and you want a reliable hatchback without paying Toyota hybrid prices. A parent doing 30 miles each way can feel those savings every month, especially when gas jumps without warning. Next comes the little van trick that makes car seats and tight parking feel less painful. Number 9. Mazda 5, 2012 to 2015. Narrow parking lots are where sliding doors start feeling like a secret weapon, and the Mazda 5 gives that trick without making you drive a full-size van. A lot of parents do not realize how much stress comes from buckling kids while a regular door is half open against a shopping cart, another car, or a concrete post. With this Mazda, the doors slide back, the step-in is low, and the cabin works for 2 kids, plus the occasional extra passenger. It has 6 seats, not a giant living room, so we need to be honest about the job. This is not the best pick for huge teenagers, heavy towing, or a loaded vacation with luggage for a week. It is a school-run tool, a daycare tool, and a weekday family mover that parks like a compact. The 2.5-liter 4-cylinder and conventional automatic keep the drivetrain pretty simple, and running costs are usually lower than a full-size minivan because tires are smaller, fuel use is lighter, and parts are not exotic. Current prices commonly run from about $5,500 to $11,500, and plenty of decent ones sit under $10,000. The parent value is space per dollar, plus doors that make everyday loading calmer. Safety comes from buying a clean, well-kept example, not a worn-out bargain with old tires and rusty brakes. I also like that you can see the corners better than in many swollen crossovers, which matters when kids are walking behind parked cars. On inspection, work both sliding doors several times, fold every seat, run rear airflow, listen for motor mount vibration at idle, and check underneath for rust, especially if it lived near salted roads. Make sure the third row actually matches your life, because it is useful, not spacious. New price was usually in the low 20s, which makes used examples feel worthy when the doors, seats, and records check out. Choose this car when you want sliding doors, occasional 6-seat use, and easier child access, but a full minivan feels too large and too costly. When you are alone with tired kids, a sliding door is not a luxury, it is a daily shortcut. If winter mornings are your real headache, number 8 earns its place when roads turn ugly. Number 8. Subaru Forester, 2016 to 2018, non-turbo 2.5. Bad weather does not care that one parent is already late, and that is where the Subaru Forester can feel like a steady helper instead of another worry. I would not pick it for the absolute lowest running cost, because all-wheel drive means matching tires, extra driveline service, and a little more fuel than a front-wheel drive compact. But for snow states, steep driveways, gravel roads, muddy sports fields, or dark morning commutes, the Forester gives a parent something valuable: confidence. The cabin is upright, the glass area is huge, and visibility is better than most stylish crossovers that trade sightlines for looks. That matters when kids, carts, and rush drivers are moving around a school lot. It also helps on long evening drives, because fatigue gets worse when you are guessing where the corners are. We are talking about the naturally aspirated 2.5-liter version, not the turbo, because turbo heat and owner abuse are not what I want for a tight budget. The continuously variable transmission has to feel smooth, the oil level has to stay stable, and the tires must match in brand, size, and wear. If one tire is newer than the others, I start asking questions, because mismatched tires can stress the all-wheel drive system. Current prices for higher-mile clean examples usually run around $9,000 to $12,000, while low-mile cream puffs often push above the budget. Safety is the strong side here, with a sturdy feel, great outward view, and available driver assist on some trims, but no safety badge saves a neglected car. Check oil history, ask about transmission fluid service, listen for wheel bearing hum at highway speed, and inspect the rear suspension and brakes. I would also run the air conditioning and look for damp carpet, because comfort problems become miserable when kids are cold or sweating. New price was usually in the mid-20s to low 30s, and that is why old clean ones still bring strong money. Choose this car when snow, hills, or rough weather are part of real life, and traction matters more than the cheapest gallon count. Just remember, all-wheel drive is not magic. Tires are still the first safety system. If fuel cost matters more than weather, number 7 brings the crossover shape with hybrid savings. Number 7. Kia Niro Hybrid, 2017 to 2019. Long school runs can turn a cheap SUV into an expensive habit, and the Kia Niro Hybrid tries to stop that without looking like a science project. It has a hatchback shape with a little extra height, so groceries, backpacks, and weekend bags load easier than they do in a low sedan, but it still drives like a budget commuter. For a single-income parent, the fuel savings are the headline. Less money burned every week means more room for insurance, lunches, clothes, and the repair fund nobody wants, but everybody needs. The 1.6-liter hybrid setup uses a 6-speed dual-clutch automatic, and that is where we stay careful. It can be efficient and pleasant, but it is not the same as an old-school, simple automatic. In stop-and-go traffic, I want a clean takeoff, no chatter, no harsh lurch, and no warning lights. Some Kia models can also be strange on insurance depending on the city, theft history, and carrier. So, we quote insurance before signing anything. Current prices usually land around $8,000 to $12,000 for higher mileage base and mid-trim examples. And we skip the roughest ones because a cheap hybrid with a messy history is not a bargain. Safety for a parent comes from calm driving habits, good visibility, modern features, and verified recall completion. Check the hybrid battery display, test the brakes for a natural feel, watch for warning lights, and make sure the cargo area actually fits your stroller, sports bag, and grocery routine. I would drive it in a parking lot, through a neighborhood, and onto the highway, because a short dealer loop hides too much. New price started in the mid-20s, so current used values can make sense if the recall paperwork and hybrid behavior look clean. Choose this car when you want hybrid fuel savings, a useful hatch, and a newer feeling cabin without paying compact SUV money. The Niro works best for a calm driver, not someone who floors it between stop signs. Next, we go older and simpler, with the Toyota small SUV that still makes sense if the condition is right. Subscribe if you want calm buyer rules, not dealer pressure. We check years, engines, prices, and problems before your wallet takes damage. Number 6. Toyota RAV4, 2009 to 2012, 2.5 4-cylinder. Older Toyota SUVs keep getting attention because they usually do the boring jobs without turning every warning light into a crisis, and that is exactly why the Toyota RAV4 belongs here. For a single parent, the appeal is not status. It is a rear hatch that takes groceries and backpacks, a seat height that makes kid loading easier, a cabin that is easy to see out of, and a size that does not feel like a bus in a crowded school lane. The Smart Play is the 2009 through 2012 window with the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder and conventional automatic, because it steps away from the earlier 2.4-liter oil consumption concern and keeps the drivetrain simple. No turbo, no luxury air suspension, no oversized wheels, and no fancy system that needs a specialist every time it gets moody. Running cost is not Prius cheap, but it stays reasonable for a small SUV, and front-wheel drive models usually cost less to maintain than all-wheel drive. If you do need all-wheel drive, check the service history because rear differential fluid and matching tires matter. Current prices usually run about $7,000 to $11,500 for usable examples, with rust, miles, and records changing everything. Safety for family use comes from predictable size, good view, decent cargo room, and a platform every shop understands, but I still want recall checks, crash history, and a close underbody look. Inspect for rear suspension rust, listen for clunks, check the tailgate and spare area, look for leaks, and drive it long enough to feel warm shift quality. A parent should also check the rear seat with the child seats they actually use because comfort in theory does not help on Monday morning. The new price was often in the mid-20s, and that old sticker reminds you why a well-kept one still feels like value. Choose this car when you need a reliable small SUV, occasional bad weather help, and cargo space without stepping into big SUV fuel and repair bills. If the seller has no records, we price it like risky transportation, not Toyota magic. And if you need sliding doors with more seats, number 5 gives you family space for less than many people expect. Number 5. Kia Sedona 2015 to 2017, LX or EX. Sliding doors are not glamorous, but for a single parent, they can turn a chaotic morning into something calmer and safer. That is why the Kia Sedona deserves a hard look. Most shoppers chase a Sienna or Odyssey first, then get stunned by the price, and the Sedona sits there looking plain, even though it gives the same basic family tool. Low step-in height, wide door openings, real seats, and enough room for kids, grandparents, backpacks, groceries, and sports bags without stacking everything to the roof. I have seen parents buy a cramped crossover because the dealer made it sound cooler, then come back tired because buckling car seats became a daily fight. A minivan does not ask you to climb over consoles or swing big doors into the next car. The 2015 to 2017 LX or EX is the window I would shop because the 3.3-liter V6 and 6-speed automatic are normal enough for mainstream shops, and the cabin is useful without chasing fancy trim that adds costly gadgets. Running costs are not compact car cheap, so we stay honest. It uses more fuel, tires are larger, and brakes work harder because it is a real family mover. But the purchase price can be thousands lower than a Toyota or Honda van, and that difference can pay for tires, fluids, and a repair cushion. Current prices usually run about $6,500 to $12,000, with the cheap ones usually carrying higher miles or rougher stories. For a parent on one income, space per dollar is the winner here, not bragging rights. Safety comes from the layout, the weight, the visibility, the backup camera on many trims, and the ability to secure child seats without fighting the cabin. Still, no badge saves a neglected van. Work both sliding doors again and again because a lazy motor becomes annoying fast. Run front and rear air conditioning, check coolant level, look for oil leaks, verify recall work, and quote insurance before you buy. Also look at tire age because old rubber can turn a cheaper van into a safety problem on a rainy highway. Bring the car seats, fold the third row, and load the stroller you actually use because a van that looks huge online can still fail your routine. I would also listen for suspension knocks over rough pavement because school lots and speed bumps expose weak links quickly. The smart buyer also checks real weekly miles. If the commute is short, a van can make sense because fuel does not dominate the budget. If the commute is long, fuel becomes a second payment. That is why we match the vehicle to the parent, not to pride. Choose this car when you need real minivan space, but the Sienna prices are stretching the budget too far. Now we flip back to fuel savings because number 4 protects one income every single week. Number 4, Toyota Prius 2014 to 2015 liftback. Gas stations can quietly rob a tight budget, and the Toyota Prius is the car that fights back without making a big speech. Nobody buys one because it looks tough, but that is not the job. The job is getting one parent to work, school pickup, the grocery store, the pharmacy, and home again, while using fewer gallons than almost anything else under $12,000. I like the later third-generation liftback, especially 2014 and 2015, because it gives the best mix of price, parts support, and fuel savings, while avoiding some of the roughest early bargain examples. The 1.8-liter hybrid setup with electronic continuously variable style drive is smooth in traffic. And that matters when your day is stop signs, drive-through lanes, and crowded school routes. The hatch is more useful than it looks. Backpacks, groceries, a stroller, and a week of random kid stuff fit better than people expect, and the low floor helps when you are tired after work. Running cost is where it gets jaw-dropping. A Prius near 50 miles per gallon can cut fuel spending nearly in half compared with a 25 mile per gallon small SUV, and compared with a 20 mile per gallon 3-row SUV, the monthly savings can feel huge. That money stays in the house, not in the pump. It also helps with tires and brakes because the car is light. The wheels are normal size, and gentle hybrid braking can stretch pad life when the system is healthy. But we do not pretend old hybrids are magic. Hybrid battery age matters. Brake actuator noise matters. Warning lights matter. Cold start rattles can point toward EGR clogging or head gasket trouble on neglected high-mile cars, and that is costly. I want oil records, cooling system history, and a clean test drive after the car sits cold. Current prices usually land around $7,500 to $12,000 for clean, higher-mile cars, depending on region and history. For safety, the Prius is not big, but it is predictable, stable, easy to park, and common enough that shops know it well. Inspect the hybrid battery behavior on the display, listen for rattles at startup, watch for brake warning lights, and check the 12-volt battery because weak voltage creates strange problems. Make sure the rear hatch opens smoothly and the cargo cover is present, because missing little pieces tell you how carefully the owner treated the car. A single parent does not need perfect paint. They need clean shifts, cold air, honest tires, strong brakes, and a seller who can prove the car was cared for. That boring proof is what keeps one bad Saturday from becoming a month of expensive rides and missed work. Choose this car when fuel cost is your biggest monthly pain, and you need a reliable hatchback more than an SUV image. Number 3 gives up fuel mileage, but adds height, space, and a stronger family feel. Number 3, Toyota Highlander, 2009 to 2013. Family life gets bigger before the budget does, and that is why an older Toyota Highlander can make sense when a small car just cannot carry the week anymore. It is not the cheapest vehicle to fuel, and clean ones are not cheap because people know what they are. But for a parent who needs extra room, occasional third-row seating, decent cargo space, and a calmer ownership story than many bargain SUVs, it is a strong choice. I would shop 2009 through 2013 carefully with the 3.5-liter V6 and conventional automatic as the main target. That drivetrain has enough power that the vehicle does not feel strained with kids, bags, and highway miles. And that matters because a stressed small engine often uses more fuel than the brochure makes you think. This is the family SUV for older kids. Shared rides, school activities, weekend errands, and parents who need a cabin that feels solid without buying a giant truck-based hauler. The third row is not minivan spacious, so do not fool yourself. It is for kids and short trips, not grown adults crossing the country. Running cost is a trade. Fuel use is higher than a Prius. Tires and brakes cost more than a compact, and all-wheel drive adds service needs. But a well-kept Highlander can be cheaper long-term than a fragile, cheap SUV that needs transmission work every year. It also holds value, which is painful when buying but helpful if custody needs, job miles, or family size change later. Current prices usually run about $8,500 to $12,000 for older, higher-mile examples, while low-mile clean ones often jump above this budget fast. Safety value comes from size, visibility, a stable driving feel, and Toyota familiarity. But condition is everything now because these are older machines. I check water pump seepage, coolant smell, suspension clunks, brake thickness, tire wear, rust underneath, and rear hatch operation. If it has all-wheel drive, I want service records, not a seller saying it is probably fine. I also test every rear seat, latch, and belt, because a family SUV with sticky hardware becomes a daily irritation. Parents also need to think about exits, not just seats. Can the youngest climb out quickly? Can the older kid reach the belt without help? Can you grab a backpack without dumping groceries on the ground? Those small details are why the right family vehicle feels reliable before you even talk about the engine. The new price was often in the low 30s, so depreciation already took the first punch, and resale value stays helpful if life changes later. Choose this car when you need a safer-feeling family SUV, occasional third-row use, and proven hardware more than the lowest gas bill. And if you need even more seats for less money, number 2 is the big Honda many parents overlook when fuel prices scare them. Number 2, Honda Pilot, 2012 to 2015. Big families do not fit inside wishful thinking, and the Honda Pilot is for the parent who has finally admitted a small car will not cover real life. 3 kids, shared custody weekends, carpool duty, sports bags, bad weather, grandparents, and road trips can make a compact feel useless by Wednesday. The Pilot is square, roomy, and easy to see out of, which is exactly why I respect it. It is not trying to look like a coupe on stilts. It is trying to carry people, gear, and groceries without turning every stop into cargo Tetris. The second-generation years from 2012 to 2015 are worth shopping because they use the 3.5-liter V6 and 5-speed automatic, not a CVT, and they have a big cabin that works harder than many stylish crossovers. Running cost needs a real warning. Fuel economy is not the win. If you have one child, a short commute, and no need for space, do not buy one just because it feels safe. You will pay at the pump, and tires, brakes, and fluids are larger vehicle expenses. But if you truly need 8-seat usefulness, a Pilot can be cheaper than buying the wrong small car, hating it, and trading it in a year. Current prices usually run about $7,000 to $12,000, usually with higher miles. Reliability is good when care is good, but the timing belt and water pump service are not optional. If there is no proof around the proper mileage interval, I price that job into the deal immediately. I also watch for VCM-related oil use, engine mount wear, misfires, rough idle, and neglected all-wheel drive fluid. For a parent with children on board, safety is not just crash ratings. It is visibility, seating position, good tires, strong brakes, a working backup camera if equipped, and a vehicle that tracks straight at 70 miles per hour without shaking. Inspect engine mounts by feeling for vibration, test warm transmission shifts, check every seatbelt, fold the third row, and look underneath for rust. Open the rear hatch and load real bags if you can, because the Pilot looks boxy, but the routine matters more than the brochure. I would also check radiator fans, heat, and air conditioning, because a hot cabin with kids turns a small repair into misery. Also check the boring paperwork, registration history, title branding, open recalls, and tire date codes are not exciting, but they decide whether a cheap family car stays cheaper or becomes painful. Choose this car when you have multiple kids, big gear, winter roads, or carpool duty, and the extra fuel cost buys space you truly use. If it smells like coolant, shifts hard, or the seller cannot show timing belt paperwork, we walk away. Number 1 is even better for daily parent duty because it makes life easier before the engine even starts. If this saved you from one bad deal, subscribe. We keep advice practical because repairs do not care about excuses or tight budgets. Number 1. Toyota Sienna 2011 to 2014. Real parent life does not care what looks cool, and that is why the Toyota Sienna earns the top spot. A single parent often needs the vehicle to act like a helper, not a toy. The doors need to open in tight parking spaces. The floor needs to sit low enough that kids can climb in without a production. The rear area needs room for groceries and backpacks at the same time. The seats need to fold without a wrestling match. And when another child needs a ride after practice, the answer should not be panic. Dealerships push crossovers because crossovers are easy to sell. They look outdoorsy, they photograph well, and they make people feel like they are not buying a minivan. But living with kids is different from standing on a showroom floor. Sliding doors are not a gimmick. They are a daily stress reducer. A low floor is not boring. It saves your back when you are lifting a sleeping child, a diaper bag, and groceries after a long shift. The 2011 to 2014 Sienna with the 3.5-liter V6 and 6-speed automatic gives strong family duty without feeling fragile. The V6 uses a timing chain, not the older timing belt setup, which helps long-term service planning. But it does not mean ignore maintenance. Running costs are not cheap. Fuel use is heavier. Tires cost more, and brakes work harder than on a sedan. But compared with many 3-row SUVs, the Sienna often gives more usable room, better child access, and fewer daily compromises. That matters when one income has to cover rent, groceries, insurance, school costs, and whatever broke in the house last week. Current prices usually sit around $7,500 to $12,000 for clean, higher-mile examples, depending on trim, rust, and history. For one income, the real savings are not just gallons. The savings come from buying enough vehicle the first time, avoiding cramped mistakes, and choosing a platform that shops understand. Safety comes from a stable family layout, good visibility, proper child seat room, and a cabin that lets the parent work quickly without climbing, twisting, or fighting doors. Inspect both sliding doors, power or manual, until you trust them. Run rear air conditioning, test the power liftgate if equipped, fold every seat, check front struts, inspect brakes and tires, and look hard for underbody rust. Also, check for water pump seepage, coolant smell, and complete service records, because heat damage ruins even a Toyota. One shop habit I like is simple. Watch how the previous owner treated the cabin. Crushed snacks, broken vents, missing cargo panels, and torn seat tracks do not scare me by themselves, but they tell me the van lived hard. If the inside was ignored, fluids may have been ignored too. A clean van with boring records is worth more than a shiny van with a dramatic story. I would avoid vans with mystery electrical problems, wet carpet, flood smell, or missing rear seat hardware, because family vehicles get abused, and sellers love to hide it under an air freshener. The new price was usually in the high 20s to upper 30s, so under $12,000 is attractive only if the condition is honest. Choose this car when you have car seats, multiple kids, school runs, groceries, and no patience for a vehicle that fights you every day. The Sienna may not win the driveway beauty contest, but it wins the Monday morning test. And that is the test that matters. If I had one income, kids in the back, and no backup car waiting at home, this is the one I would check first. Buyer cheat sheet. Keep the buying rules simple, because cheap family cars only stay cheap when the story is clean. Honda HR-V fits 1 or 2 kids, tight parking, and small SUV usefulness without huge bills. The Scion XB fits parents who need doors, cargo, and a tall cabin more than style. Ford C-Max Hybrid fits long commutes where fuel cost is the weekly enemy. Mazda 5 fits sliding door convenience when a full-size van feels too big. Subaru Forester fits snow, hills, gravel, and parents who need traction more than the lowest pump bill. Kia Niro Hybrid fits a parent who wants a crossover shape with hybrid savings, but it needs a smooth, low-speed test and an insurance quote. The Toyota RAV4 fits the parent who wants a simple, small SUV with proven parts and a useful hatch. Kia Sedona fits real minivan needs when Sienna and Odyssey prices are too high. Toyota Prius fits the parent who drives big miles and wants the fuel bill under control. Toyota Highlander fits occasional third-row use with a stronger family SUV feel. Honda Pilot fits bigger families, carpool duty, and gear-heavy weekends when fuel cost is worth the cabin space. Toyota Sienna fits the parent who wants the most practical family tool under $12,000. Do not buy the cheapest one. Buy the cleanest one with the calmest history. Service records beat shiny paint. Tires, brakes, fluids, rust, warning lights, recall proof, and title history decide whether a cheap car stays cheap. Get a pre-purchase inspection if you can, because 1 hour on a lift can save months of regret. If the seller rushes you, hides records, or says every warning light is normal, we leave. That is the real family budget victory. Click the next video before you buy. Some cheap family cars look safe, but hide costly problems. Subscribe for reliable picks and smarter checks that dealerships will not give you.